Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I feel always being drawn to this deck, and so I'm going to pull another card before I start day 3 of the meditation. I had some very interesting things happen with the meditation today that I'm going to be telling you about during the meditation, because I kind of want to, I like the element of surprise, and I think that it's kind of a neat thing to actually use that. So I'm going to go ahead and shuffle these, and I'm going to see what card comes up for today. As I said, I love these cards. I love the way they shuffle. They sound really, really cool. And the cards are really, really great. So I'll give it one more poker shuffle. I guess that's what they call this. Oops, that didn't work so well. Let me try it again here. Come on, cards. Come on, play nice. There we go. That's got it. Okay, I'm going to shuffle them the other way so that they don't bend too much. These are just beautiful cards. But at any rate, I'm using the Gilded Tarot from Ciro Marchetti again. And I bought these in the UK when I was there last week, and I absolutely love them. The deck is just amazing. And it was really funny. My husband said, "Oh, why are you buying another deck? You have like 5 or 6 decks." I said, "I know people have 400, so, or I know of people. I don't know them personally, but I do know of people that do have like a lot of decks." So let's give this a shuffle until somebody tells me to stop. Okay, Nigel just said stop. So the guides are kind of switching out, swapping out, just so that they get their names mentioned, I guess. So the card for today, oh, this one's lovely. The High Priestess, Major Arcana. This is the first Major Arcana that I've actually gotten since I started doing this. So this is the card for today. And from what I remember about the High Priestess is that this is feminine energy. This is the card of feminine energy, of women power, of, which is kind of interesting because 2 days ago I got to talking about the women leaders in the world, and so I think it's interesting that today this card comes up. But just an amazing card, just very beautiful. The artwork is just absolutely gorgeous. I love how the water kind of, it looks like the water's dripping from her, but actually it's a dress that she's wearing that has that sort of look to it that looks like water dripping from the skirt of her outfit. But just really a beautiful, beautiful card. And she's wearing a mask over her eyes. So it's kind of, I get the sort of sense of there being like a secretive or just a, a hidden potential, hidden power within her that enables her to shine as brightly as she does. And I'm also drawn to the light behind her, which is right here in the card, right here where my finger is. And just really, really beautiful, radiating that feminine power, that feminine beauty, all the things that sometimes women have a tendency to kind of conceal that about themselves or about ourselves, since I'm a woman too. We tend to conceal that. We tend to hide it. We tend to try to dull the flame or dull the fire or so that's in us, that we have this power within us that we can shine brighter and more radiant than anything else. And I think that this card kind of tells me that I should let my light shine bright and be that feminine energy, be that feminine power that I am, and not be afraid to shine it out and not be afraid to show it. So that's the card for today. And I'm just going to leave this here, and then I'm going to do the meditation, and we'll see what happens with that. The camera's kind of doing goofy things. There we go. Now we got a little. Now you can see my tree of life. At any rate, so here we go. Today's day number 3. Today's April 15th, 2025. And I start out by saying, my heart goes out to the people who are suffering at the hands of tyrants today. And Ramón says, you care for the well-being of others and are not letting this lower your vibrations. I said, I'm trying not to let it do that. Sometimes it's very hard. There's so much injustice. Ramón says, yes, but there's also karma. Karma will come to pass, not in the way that you surmise, but in the way the universe responds. And I said, yes, well, I was prepared for things to get pretty darn bad, and now I think they're pretty darn bad. And Ramon says, what have you learned to this point? I said, well, I learned that kindness is its own reward. Helping a stranger is always a good thing, and being kind to others will reap a good reward. Yet, sometimes I wonder if things I'm doing are having an effect. I don't mean with this, I mean out in the real world. And Ramon says, you're thinking about the woman that you helped out, and right after you helped her, you got griped out by somebody else. I said, yeah, if that's karma, then something is goofy. And Ramon says, you were not at fault for that. Your head was down. I said, yeah, and then she said, watch where you're going. The thing is, I had to pay them to pay, and then I was in a hurry, and then that happened. The whole thing is just bonkers. And I have to stop right here and digress because this is what happened. We were in the Milton Keynes Coachway station, and I was kind of out of sorts. We had just found out there was a terrible accident on the motorway between Milton Keynes and the Heathrow Airport, and we were traveling on that particular day. And while we were out, I had to go to the restroom, and I had gotten into, there was a line, a small line. It was just one person in front of me, and she was like, "Oh, the thing just ate my money, and I don't have any more change to use the restroom." So I gave her the 20p that she needed to use the restroom. I just put it in the machine, and I said, "Here, go." And she's like, "Really? I'll pay you back." I said, "No, you don't have to." I said, "Just go." And so she went in, and then I put my money in, and I went in. And the woman who was cleaning the facilities had a like a it was like a the end of a broom, like a broomstick type thing. It was a plastic thing, and she had it hanging over the doorway. Well, as I come in, my head is lowered and I cannot see this thing that's in the doorway, and I knock it down, and and I was like, what the heck? Because my head was down. And the woman comes back and she starts griping at me because I knocked her pole down. I mean, she didn't ask me, are you okay, or anything like that. She just started griping at me because I had knocked her pole down and she was cleaning the bathroom. And I said, well, I have to go to the bathroom, and I have a bus that's leaving in like 5 minutes, and I have to hurry. And so after much hemming and hawing, she let me go to the restroom. And I had to hurry, so I was hurrying, and then I quickly washed my hands after I finished, and then I left. And I was wondering the whole time, why is it that this happened right after I helped somebody who was in need of help? So I was just kind of befuddled about that. So anyway, so that's the digression, but I wanted to explain what was going on and where my mindset was when I was talking about this. So I said, and yeah, then she said, watch where you're going. The thing is, I had to pay, and then I was in a hurry, and then this happened. The whole thing is just bonkers. Ramon says, maybe she learned something in that, like how not to treat people. Sometimes things do happen for the benefit of others, not necessarily for your own. I said, yeah, don't I know it? Still, it was kind of weird. The other woman wanted to pay me back, but I told her that it wasn't necessary. Maybe she will pay it forward, kind of like that song, Chain of Love. And Ramon says, that is precisely what this is about. Don't let the chain of love end with you. Keep on paying it forward. Maybe at some point people will see that the actions of others can have a positive impact on other people. You have been witness to that when you held a door for someone, helped them with something. Each time you help another person, the reward is not always instant. It is, in fact, coming back to you at moments when you least expect it. Logically, you ask yourself, what have you to lose in helping another person? But the reality is, what have you to gain? A good feeling that is that instant karma. But many times the result will lie in the fact that you have done something beneficial for another who will pay it forward, and ultimately that will return to you. What you are doing is you are not waiting around for it to be your turn. Instead, you are continuing to share and help where you can. When more and more people do that, then guess what happens? You are finding yourself in a sort of utopian frame of mind. That is why you are experiencing it more and more here. You are in that space where the good that you do will ultimately reveal the sense that what goes around comes around. This can be a good and the not so good. I said, is that why the evildoers in the world will ultimately get their karma? And Ramon says, that is precisely why. You are living in a time where it sometimes feels like you are fighting against the wind, against tyranny. But the reality is, with so many people pushing back, this will ultimately push karma along. The real power is with the people. The individuals who try to force the people to divide themselves up will ultimately be defeated by them. It is starting now. People are faced with their own questions of humanity. Are they truly willing to lose their humanness in order to be right about something? That is where we are at. The people will strive with all that is inside of them to find a way to live, not only with themselves, but also with the consequences of their choices. I said, I keep thinking of the person I knew in social media who told me that they voted for a monster because they didn't like Kamala Harris. They ended up deleting me. What ultimately happened to them? And Ramon says they lost everything, starting with themselves. It was tragic, really, but it was somehow to be expected. Karma and the universe are not out to get people. It just is what it is. Karma will not punish. It merely goes into a sort of cause and effect. What would you do if someone came to you and said that they voted for the monster? I said, at this point, I don't know. Ramon says, you would not turn away from them. I said, perhaps not. But my notion of trust would not be there. Perhaps saying that was dumb was not the best possible response. Ramon said, you were angry. I said, yes, because I could almost sense what was coming. It wasn't like I was all that in for the FAFO thing, but I somehow could understand that inherently what people vote for is what they get. I know it sounds harsh, but I did not vote for that. I know enough about history to understand that the repercussions would be what they are. When I tried to argue that, I got attacked. The attacks were personal. They were attacks on the feelings I had and the way I felt about various things. I knew deep down inside that what the people were saying were like them looking in a mirror, but the words still hurt. Ramon says, the person who attacked you got their karma. That is all you need to know. I said, would they ever come back and try and speak to me? Ramon said, why would they? And I said, I don't know. I don't think I would ever want to speak to them again. And Ramon says, then you can let them go. I said, okay, so we've discussed karma and the consequences. Is there anything else I should know? Ramon says, you are in a safe place, both physically and spiritually. You must not worry about the situation anymore. The universe is working everything out. I said, okay, Ramon, why did Andrei Sakharov suddenly pop into my mind? I'm not hardly at his level. And Ramon says, why not? He is here. He is one of the many people who want to talk to you. Just open your mind and let him come in. He has a message for you. And I said, for me? And Andrei Sakharov says, of course for you. I wanted to speak to you for a time, perhaps when you spoke to Mikhail Sergeyevich. I figured it was an opportunity for me as well. I said, I've admired you since I was a child. Why couldn't I hear you before? And he says, you were not ready. You have to be ready for messages before you can actually get them. It's like trying to speak to a person who is conversing with another. As luck would play, you wait your turn and allow time to play it through to the end. A message like I have for you is timeless. It is one of forgiveness, not just towards self, but also towards those who harm you. As you know, through your spiritual lessons, you forgive to release yourself from events of the past. You let go of any notion that what you are doing here is wrong. The release of hurtful times and people will give you freedom. You ask how someone like me got through life, although persecuted by others. It is same as when you were a child in school contending with bullies. You made it through. When that girl told you that she wished she was you, you found out that she was jealous of you. Perhaps people saw your talents and gifts as a threat. Ramón told you they have no power over you. That is true as any lesson I could give you. When those in power want to control you, that they cannot, then the power is not in them, it is instead in you. It is deep in your consciousness and cannot be given away or transferred to another. All that can happen would be for them to see it in you, manifested in you, and strive to find it in themselves. This is where you are at. This is the good that will come, and this is why I speak to you today. The message is clear. Go forward with compassion as your armor. Give freely the kindness and hope so that others might take it in to their own heart. Lead by example using humility, understanding, and courage. And never, ever allow the evildoers to take that away from you. By standing strong with a powerful sword in hand, you will see yourself and the world through these turbulent times. Just trust yourself and believe in the good in the mission at hand. And I said, thank you so much. This is a perfect message for today. And he says, I am glad you are open to it. And I said, me too. Is there anything else I need to know? And he says, yes, as you seek forgiveness, know too that in this life I am now in, I have found it as well, and it has lifted my spirit to new heights. I said, that's beautiful. Thank you. Ramón, do you have anything to add? And Ramón says, I think that is enough for today. And so that's the end of the meditation. And I think that Ramón really put it in a very powerful way. He said, this was enough for today. There's so much more to come. I have that feeling. And maybe this is why. This card. Let's check the book and see what it has to say. Oh, wow. I just opened it and I just got right to the page. It says, the High Priestess moves between two pillars, symbolically duality, symbolizing duality. The crescent moon behind her and the glittering star that adorn her head show her ability to access higher knowledge in esoteric matters. Her face is masked, representing mystery and secrets. Draped in a transparent veil, she appears to be in a trance-like state. Engaged in the cosmic dance she pays no heed to our presence nor our opinions. She seems secure within her own knowledge of universal matters. She appears to defy natural laws as she floats above the water, which represents the subconscious and the world of the psyche. To see as she does, first we must acquire her wisdom. The colors of this card are muted in various shades of blue, relating to the moon and water, both symbols of subconscious imagination and creativity. Number 2 represents the duality of opposing forces, potential recognized, but not yet expressed. That is pretty amazing, don't you think? Okay, so we'll just look at this card just for a couple more seconds, and then I'm going to put it down, and I'm going to say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here. This has been a very enlightening day, and I'm just extremely thrilled that that card came up. And ironically, it's also the card on one side of the box. So I wish you a wonderful day, and don't you love the synchronicity of everything? It's just amazing. So take care, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you tomorrow for the next meditation. But until then, namaste.